stopped at what is approximately the 38th parallel, the demilitarized zone now. We weren't stopped because the Chinese stopped us. We were stopped because the politicians stopped us.
As the bloodshed continued, President Truman began to seek a diplomatic way to stop the fighting.
I believe that we must try to limit the war to Korea for these vital reasons: to make sure that the precious lives of our fighting men are not wasted, to see that the security of our country and the free world is not needlessly jeopardized, and to prevent a third world war.
But General MacArthur disagreed with the president, defiantly insisting that there was no substitute for victory.
MacArthur made it known that he wanted to go to all-out war against China. To have expanded the Korean War as MacArthur wanted by even using the atomic bomb against China would have been a mistake of biblical proportions.
The tense situation exploded in April of 1951. MacArthur publicly criticized U.S. policy in Korea and was relieved of his command.
I now close my military career and just fade away.
The war raged on for 2 more bloody years. Every day the casualties increased. In Korea, the chance of getting killed or wounded was 1 in 9. But at the new Mobile Army Surgical Hospitals, or MASH units, the survival rate was high.
On a particularly bad day, the helicopters would come zooming in one after the other. They would have one patient on each side. Trucks would bring in the other wounded, and they would be 300, 400, 500 men. And we could operate, and we did, 24 to 36 hours at a stretch.
It was just one huge trauma room there. We had to do something. Laughter was the best policy for us. I mean, you had to have something funny. We had a group of doctors that called themselves the Red Lancers. And they all wore pith helmets, and they were like they were in the jungle or something. They used to pull tricks, funny things like take the nurse's underwear off the line and fly it on a pole or something. They really were like kids, but they were good surgeons. They were all in one tent. Now, if you saw the movie MASH, it was something like that. It was a swamp. They had these bottles hanging up with the martinis, and they had this sign with an elephant, and it says Sempre Shikorum, which was Yiddish for always drunk. That's what they told us. I don't know if that's the truth.
When I first came to Korea, the doctors and nurses said, "Chris, don't get involved emotionally with the patients because this is going to tear you apart and you won't be able to do anything." And I couldn't do that. The guys would talk about how proud they were that their fathers came to see them play varsity football when they were seniors, or how their mothers would bake a particular cake or make a party for them, what it was like having sex for the first time, and the sorrow that they couldn't have sex anymore because they were going to die.
Just prior to being inducted into the service, I was playing professional baseball with the St. Louis Cardinal chain. I was not a great player, and I didn't play that much, but the potential was there, but the war came along and I was drafted. We had a break in the communications, as I recall, between our division and the Turkish battalion, and we went up to maintain those lines and to fix the break. And somewhere along the line, I tripped a landmine. Flew through the air, and then when I hit the ground, I looked and saw my right leg laying out in the field in front of me, and I lifted my right hand to do something, and as I did, I saw my little finger on my right hand hanging down about 6 to 8 inches with probably a tendon or something holding it on. They immediately dispatched a helicopter, and all I asked was, am I going to live? And nobody answered me.
3 days before Christmas, Andy was brought to the ward. Both of his legs had been blown off. Part of his hand had been blown off. He was the worst wounded man that survived that I dealt with in the war. He was so badly hurt that the doctors and the nurses said, well, he's going to die. And at that point I said, no, he's not going to die. He is not going to die. Well, Christmas Eve, some of the doctors, nurses, and corpsmen went through the different wards singing Christmas carols. And they came into the ward and they started singing Silent Night. And as they sang Silent Night, Andy opened his eyes.
I came to, and the doctor was there, and the doctor said to me, you're going to live now. And to this day, I still hum Silent Night when I'm in the shower. I lost both of my legs, most of my left hip and buttocks. My arm is wounded from the elbow up to the shoulder, and my finger is gone, and my index finger is very badly disfigured. Other than that, I'm in great health. At the time, I had thoughts about my career in baseball. I just wondered if I had been physically well, whether I would have made it to the major leagues, but it's something that que sera.
With the war in a hopeless stalemate, peace talks began late in 1951. Throughout the protracted negotiations, United Nations and communist forces faced each other from dugout bunkers, much like the trenches of World War I.
Once it got settled down, the lines were established, no one wanted to upset that and really go out and win the war.
Well, it's frustrating being a leader and knowing that in every one of your soldiers' heads, they're always playing this message, I don't want to be the last son of a bitch to go down in this war. So it took a special breed of soldier to go out and go on patrol. Here these guys could tomorrow cut a deal, and you were killed the night before.
The soldiers didn't know exactly what they were fighting for. They were telling us that we were here to stop communism. We get up in the morning, we jump on a tank or an armored vehicle and go all the way up there first until you encounter the enemy. And then you would shoot. You have a little war going on. And at the end of the day, you get back on the tank and come on back. And then the next day, you do the same thing. The thing that bothered me a lot of times in Korea was when I saw little orphans, little children crying. We went into this house, and we're looking for people. We're going to shoot and everything. I kicked this door in, and I'm ready to shoot who's ever in there. And there's this old man laying in bed, just gray. He's dead, but there's a little young kid crying right there. Maybe I'm 4 or 5 years old. I still remember him.
They would fly over our position, and knowing that we were African-American troops, and they would say to us, why do you want to fight us? What have we done to you? When you go back home, you can't go in a restaurant, you can't get in the front of the bus, you got to get in the back of the bus. We're going to drop these pamphlets, and you pick these pamphlets up, and you cross the line, and we will treat you differently.